Tom Downey here for Titans Today. On today's show, we're taking a look at the officially but also unofficial depth chart released by the Titans. What the difference here is this is not released by the coaching staff. It's released by the media team. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes there's good info. Sometimes there's weird surprises mixed in there. Now, this comes before the Titans' first preseason game. If you are excited about the start of Titans preseason and football being back, at least in the preseason, not fully active, real games that matter, but still football back form, type me in the comments section. Now, we will hit every position group as part of today's show, so make sure you watch all the way through. But there are a couple notable takeaways I want to begin with here. Number one is at the quarterback 2 spot. Obviously, Will Levis is the starter. That surprises nobody. Mason Rudolph is listed ahead of Malik Willis. Now, as you'll see in a little bit here, that is different than, it's a tie, because Tennessee actually labeled several ties on this list. So Rudolph QB2, Willis QB3 right now. We have our first tie at running back. And if you were to guess one spot where there was going to be an or, I think running back probably would have been your top guess. It is both Tony Pollard and then Tyjae Spears. So we're going to list them 1A, 1B, because Pollard was ahead of Spears, at least when they did the slash on the depth chart. Also, maybe somewhat of note, Hassan Haskins over Julius Chestnut, and then Jabari Small as running back 5. Remember, they did cut Dylan Johnson earlier. I would wager we're not going to see very much of Pollard and Spears. We'll see how much the starters actually get reps, but those guys are mostly known commodities. I don't think you need to risk jeopardizing injury. I think there will be a pretty good committee. Ride the hot hand. Give both of them chances. They're both explosive. They're both fast. I think they both can handle more short yardage than maybe they've consistently done in previous years. And they're pass-catching backs, too. They're not Derrick Henry. They're very different than Derrick Henry. They're about as far opposite as you get. But both guys are going to have success. So who do you think ends up being this team's lead back? And that might be like 51% versus 49%. But who's the lead back? S for Tyjae Spears. P for Tony Pollard. It is the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there. S or P. In one of the more interesting surprises, a player that we have hyped, but I didn't think was going to do the starting job quite yet, is also getting the or designation. It's not just Chigokonkwo, listed as tight end 1 for Tennessee. Josh Wiley also getting that slash, the or, the 1A, 1B designation. I find that actually super interesting that is the path Tennessee has pursued here. Nick Vannett, by the way, was tight end 3 over Thomas Udukoya. I think I got that pronounced correctly. I think there is still a battle for tight end 3, but your top 2 options are very clear. I am a big fan of Chigokonkwo, but clearly Wiley has impressed this coaching staff enough to justify putting him as that or spot, which they didn't have to do. I don't think it would have raised any eyebrows despite how good he's been in training camp. This still, though, is worth mentioning. Now, today's show was made possible by Game Time. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat on your phone before you buy. All-in pricing shows your total cost up front. And the Game Time guarantee means if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. Whether it is for a Tennessee Titans football game, plenty of concerts in Nashville, including Post Malone coming in October after the release of his country album, which I'm low-key actually very excited to see how that goes because I've heard some of his country stuff and it's actually like good. So I'm excited to see how that album ends up looking. Go check out his concert. I assume there'll be plenty of country songs there since he is in Nissan Stadium in Nashville, after all. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, ChatSports for $20 off. Download Game Time today for last-minute tickets, the lowest price, all guaranteed. Number 4, the right side offensive line starters seemingly getting at least the favorites to win the job, maybe. I will say, and I'm very proud of this, I'll take a slight victory lap here, not many changes from what we have been showing on our offensive line depth charts of late to what Tennessee had. The main flips were Dooley and Simmons. We flipped spots at left guard and right guard. John O. and Jalen Duncan we had flipped. Tennessee had John O. as right tackle 2, Duncan as right tackle 3. But Sadiq Charles and Nicholas Petit-Frere both listed as the starting right guard and right tackle ahead of Dylan Radins and the others at right tackle. The left side was very obvious. No one was surprised by that. I think the battle is not over at those spots, but I think it's a reasonable assumption of maybe that's your favorite. So what is your confidence level, and be honest with me here, in the Titans offensive line? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. What I was most surprised by was Jamal Adams listed as a starter at safety for Tennessee alongside Amani Hooker. Now, they did not designate free safety or strong safety, so we'll just put it as S1, S1. Hooker was then ahead of Elijah Molden and Shaheem Carter, Mike Brown, and Matthew Jackson behind Jamal Adams. Now, of note, what you do not see, of course, on this list is Quandre Diggs. So why isn't Diggs on there? Well, despite this, basically being announced by Diggs himself, as of yesterday when this depth chart was released by Tennessee, that transition had not been processed yet by the NFL. It was not on the NFL transaction wire. I bet it happens today or whenever, but this will eventually change in real life. And given that they put Adams as the starter, I think Diggs is better. I think he's a better fit alongside Amani Hooker. I bet Diggs starts at safety now because they already put Molden behind him. Now, maybe that was an error on the depth chart, but that did stand out to me pretty significantly. So will Quandre Diggs end up starting at safety for Tennessee? Y for yes, N for no. Go ahead and sound off in the comments of today's show. Other positions I want to hit here that I'm going to continue to put 4 receivers on our depth charts because I don't want to have an entire bottom row where you've got the hurt for Hopkins and Colton Dowell on the pup list of, there's 4 other guys here. I just think that's doing too much. The order for Tennessee was wide receiver 1 was Calvin Ridley, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Kiaris Jackson, then Bryce Oliver. Behind Hopkins, it was Traylon Burks, Trayshawn Harrison, Sam Shee, and then what amounts to the slot receiver spot was Tyler Boyd, Kyle Phillips, Mason Kinsey, then Jaquan Jackson, which I suspect might be the young guys got to work their way up because there's a really strong example of that we'll get to here in a little bit. The defensive line side of the depth chart also looked different from a backup perspective. The starters obvious, Sebastian Joseph Day, Devondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons. They had Keandre Coburn at defensive end. I think the DE, DT backup roles probably aren't as significant as maybe it might be inferred. Bohanna behind Sweat, TK McClendon behind Coburn, and then Marlon Davidson, Isaiah Aiton behind Simmons. That's some battles going for those backup spots. Outside linebacker, a.k.a. edge, because it's 2024, and I refuse to call it outside linebacker because people just get confused by that. Harold Landry, Arden Key, Shane Ray, the top backup behind Harold Landry. I was kind of surprised by that over Caleb Murphy. Rashard Weaver was the backup behind Arden Key, but again, I have space. I'm not going to put a bunch of others down there. I just think it reads cleaner. Jalen Harrow, Khalid Duke, Thomas Rush, the other backups, of course, as well. We are just over 100 subscribers away from 9.5K. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button. YouTube.com/Titans today for more free Titans videos. Overall, I do think that the depth charts were pretty reflective of what the final rosters will look like with some obvious changes. Stuff happens. Inside linebacker was not. They listed 2 starters, which is how it'll be, but again, I put 3 for just space purposes. It was Kenneth Murray, Garrett Wallow, Otis Reese, Luke Gifford, JoJo Doman as inside linebacker 1, and then Jack Gibbons, Chance Campbell, then Cedric Ray and James Williams. Come on. I hate when teams do, the young guy's got to earn their role. Let's put him as the 3rd stringer. Come on. No, they're not. Corner, meanwhile, nothing too crazy here. They did put Chidobe Awuzie as CB1, which maybe that was more of a left-right thing, but they didn't designate it. Then L'Jarius Sneed, Trey Avery ahead of Caleb Farley, by the way. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., Gabe Judy Lawley there. Roger McCreary over Eric Arrour. Anthony Kendall at nickel, plus there's Tay Gowan and Robert Javier, who was listed as a backup nickel as well. Special teams, we won't spend too much time on this. Kicker, punter, long snapper are obvious. Tyjae Spears is as a kick returner, head of Kearis Jackson and Jaquan Jackson as well. Mason Kinsey, Kyle Phillips, and Kearis Jackson at punt returner. I'm going to keep an eye on the week 1 of the preseason. I don't know how accurate that will actually end up being.